Hey everyone, you are listening to Life in Motion, a podcast where I, Heather George, talk to my best friend, Jamie Jobe, about life, the ups, the downs, and everything in between, including the stuff we're not supposed to talk about. Let's get started. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that this podcast was recorded about 6 months ago. It was our very first episode. There's a lot of information in here that might sound dated. We still think it's dynamite, so let's go. One of my kids has had 3 tardies already.
First week of school?
Yeah, 3 tardies.
Are we naming names or no?
We'll take a wild guess.
Okay.
And then another one already has a RenWeb alert of not turning in homework. Not the same kid.
Really?
And not turning in homework. So that one, we said, hey, you don't get to play on the Xbox until 5 o'clock when I get the RenWebs. So if I get a RenWeb, you don't get to play on the Xbox.
We took away weekday video games when school started, and I have people following me around the house going, could you just explain why? Mom, if you would give me 3 good if you could they wear you down.
Yeah.
They wear you down.
You can't give them an hour?
Stop. Whose team are you on?
Your team. I am on your team. I'm on your team.
Do you want me to have some time?
Let them come home from school, play an hour of video games while you have an afternoon cup of coffee or whatever you need to do.
We're not doing it because this is the deal. They don't turn it off when their hour is up. Even if it's set on my screen time app, they find their way around everything.
There's no way. There is no way, because as soon as Elliot's time is up, it shuts off and he comes in and says, can I have more time?
Okay, fair enough, because he doesn't have a smartphone.
Speaking of the phone, it's like carrying around death in your pocket.
You're very dramatic.
Well, I'm tired. Let me tell you, when you have a phone in your hand, you are exposed to all kinds of vile things.
You sound really passionate about that. So what are you wanting to say?
What am I wanting to say?
What do you want to talk
is
about?
That if your child has a phone, if your husband has a phone, if you have a phone, you are exposed to a world that is targeting you.
Not me.
You. They are targeting you at your core.
For what? You are so passionate about this. I want to know, what do you want to talk about?
Porn.
Oh.
Do you ever remember coming across porn when you were a kid?
The crazy thing is I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really remember anything like that, which is weird. I mean, you hear, I don't know, I saw on TV people talking about Playboy pinups. Maybe I've probably seen a Playboy pinup.
I remember a handful of events going to my grandpa's house. He obviously was not a Christian, but we would only go occasionally, like holidays and stuff. I remember specifically, I might have been 5 years old, going, and on his coffee table are spread Playboy.
Oh, wow.
Like the whole year's worth is just fanned out across the coffee table. I remember my mom saying,
interesting. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, my mom signaled to my dad, get rid of those, you know. And so he put them away somewhere in a cabinet. And then maybe everybody goes outside to grill. I don't even know. I sneak back into the house and like, okay, now why did we have to put this away? What was the big deal? And I remember looking through those and just like, oh my gosh, this is weird. And before I got caught, put them all back. And
that's interesting.
Yeah.
When you say it that way, I guess how you define porn probably would dictate whether or not I saw it as a kid, because I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, youngest by a long shot. So I probably watched rated R movies well underage. And so if you talk about racy sex scenes, I guess I saw that.
Yeah.
So.
I just can remember being out with the neighbor kids, 8 years old. And we went to a bachelor neighbor's house to look at his new kittens. And I used the bathroom.
I just can't even
and there's a penthouse in the
bachelor neighbor's house. Okay, that's fine. That's maybe I would have just said a guy down the street.
In his bathroom. So I, looked through it. Again, to me, it was just weird. This is weird.
I think it's weird that you had all these experiences, because in my world, all those things were hidden. Like if my bachelor neighbor had a penthouse, I wouldn't have seen it. It would have been under the bed or the pillow or whatever. That's interesting.
I know. It's just kind of
so
like
what do you think? So that's our generation growing up. So what do you think about, we're both raising boys. We've got girls too, but what do you think about our kids and their proximity to porn?
It's, oh my gosh, I don't even have the right word for it. Is it sick? Is it
for sure perverted?
It's poison. It's perverted. It's beyond anything that I ever saw of a naked body, because I have followed links that have been clicked. Yeah. And it immediately takes you to perversion.
I try to make my kids think that I'm really smart and that like I can find them out.
I don't even
The Lord is always watching you guys and he's telling me what you're doing. But I sat down at the computer in our kitchen and I don't know how this happened, but there was a screen up. You could see the screensaver behind it and somehow just like lightly printed on top of it was like where your computer's been in the last 30 days. And so my oldest child was 13 and nobody has a cell phone yet, and nobody has social media, and nobody watches PG-13 movies because we're just barely 13. And when I saw where my computer in my kitchen had been in the last 30 days, I was horrified.
Yeah.
And heartbroken.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I realized that good parenting in a Christian home doesn't save your kids in and of itself, that it will track them down and find them.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
It is. It is. Talking to one of mine that clicked on an ad for, I think, cereal or a snack or something. I don't remember. They were playing a game and clicked on an ad, and it just took them to the worst place.
Sure. And I think that's how it started in my home too, is pop-up ad, let's take a look at this. And then sweet little innocent searches because of the age. And I was just like, oh my goodness, my baby just searched boobs. I can't believe this. But the rabbit trail of where it takes you, I was having my quiet time and I was looking up a scripture reference for something and I landed on Bible Hub and I thought, isn't that fascinating that Bible Hub is where my Google search took me, but my kids' Google search has taken them to Pornhub. Like a much different landing spot.
Did you see the Pornhub challenge? The music challenge?
No, we talked about this recently and I know nothing of this, so tell me more.
It's Pavlov. I mean, do you know what that is?
I do.
Okay,
I'm very smart.
Good. You did your college psychology class.
I did, like the ring the bell.
Yeah, ring the bell.
And the little mouse runs over there.
This TikTok challenge is there's this little cute song and then it transitions into like the intro music for Pornhub. And I don't know if I've never been on Pornhub, but I
have followed the trails and it is scary.
So when you're first on the homepage of Pornhub or when you're on a video?
Because I've never heard any such song, but I have seen some images that I may never unsee again.
Drum beat.
Okay.
For Pornhub. And so you had all these little girls, teenagers, 15, 16 years old. Okay. They play this cute little song that morphs into the intro to Pornhub. And as soon as that little drum beat kicks on, the guy that they're with smiles like, oh my gosh, And I just realized every time they hear that drum beat, it is awakening their desire to log on.
Wow.
It's just evil. I followed other links on Twitter. Like you go to one person's account page and the very first pinned tweet you see is graphic sex. And it's not even normal sex.
Right. But it's the reality of what's out there. It's the reality of what 9-year-olds are seeing and looking at. I was asking one of my teenagers, because I knew we were going to talk about this, and I said, why do you think pornography is addictive? And of course, their brains aren't even fully developed. They don't know very much. I don't know.
Well, they don't even think it's that bad.
Yeah. And I was like, what do you think it is that makes you not able to quit looking? But it's the chemicals that are released in your brain that then become literally addictive, and the feel-good hormones that are released. And then you need to see more and crazier to get the same feelings. And
which they don't even understand how that's poisoning them. And it's already causing breakdown in their future relationships.
Oh, for sure. I was date raped in college, and I am 100% sure that the guy had a porn addiction.
Yeah.
That he wanted something something that he had seen and not yet experienced.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
It's heartbreaking. These are my babies.
I know.
And this is what's crazy. I would say that in the circles I run in, the majority of people say, oh, no, not in my house.
Yeah.
No, we don't let our kids on social media, so impossible. Or no, I have all kinds of restrictions. Give me a break.
They would never get through those restrictions.
Oh my goodness.
You know, when I follow different Google searches on my kid's phone, it's like, how do I get around this? How do I do this? And they figure out a way to get around stuff. They're just...
It's even scriptural. You know, in Romans, it talks about, I do the things I don't want to do and I can't do the things I do want to do because we have a sin nature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there should be no surprise. And I will be honest, I almost fell out of my chair when I realized in my house, because I was that mom that maybe even looked down on other people like, I can't believe you would let them have social media because I know where that's going to lead. Mm-hmm. So we had none of the things and all of the restrictions and screen time restrictions, and you can't go here, and the computer's in the kitchen, and I can always look over your shoulder. Well, it turns out I can't. Mm-hmm. Man, sin's ugly.
It is. The devil is evil. He shows no mercy.
And this is the thing I think is fascinating. I was talking to a mom friend of mine that said that she had stumbled on an iPad under a pillow in a bedroom and found out, oh, wow, I didn't realize that my high schooler was doing this. So they sit the kid down, have a talk with them, and thank God that's over.
Yeah.
I think we want to believe it's that easy.
Yeah.
And instead, we're at war for our kids' souls.
We are. What they're presented with by culture, images in media, everything that you see on TV is your relationship is going to go from I like you to let's have sex.
Oh, yeah.
And porn is part of the equation.
Or I don't even like you, but I'm hungry for thirsty is the word.
Yeah.
Because I'm very good with culture. I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But I will have sex with you.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's a progression from I like you to I'm going to like somebody someday and I'm going to need to know how to behave in that setting. So I'm going to practice here, and I'm going to practice by myself.
Yeah.
And with others. And
you know, one thing that was interesting, I saw the compilation of TikTok videos.
I love that you are on TikTok.
Well, I went to YouTube.
Okay.
I am on TikTok.
Just like, really?
And I haven't gotten up the nerve to post my own video yet, but maybe one day. But the majority of the videos that were on there were in a bedroom.
Oh, sure.
They were laying on the bed and doing things on their phone, and they see this, you know, the song, and you just think, my gosh, all of these teenagers in their bedrooms, parents downstairs fixing dinner.
Oh, yeah. I want to know why people aren't talking about this. But when I think about why maybe I'm not talking about it with anybody, maybe besides you, is because it's embarrassing.
It's so much shame.
It's shameful. I want to protect the anonymity of my kids, but it's happening. And if nobody talks about it, then nobody's talking about it. Yeah. And then all our kids their lives are at stake.
So what's the statistic? Is it 98%? 90? So let's just come to this conversation knowing that
the vast majority
of parents, teenagers are dealing with porn on some level.
Well, let's say this. There is no 6 degrees of separation.
No.
There's 1 degree of separation. It's either you or someone you directly have personal relationship with. There is not 6 degrees of separation. Yeah. Oh, not in my house, but maybe down the street. No. You and someone you're in relationship with, and you might not know, but it doesn't make it untrue. So if we can't openly talk about our kids in an effort to protect them, but at least be transparent enough to go, it's happening in my house and I'm fighting the battle with you. What can we talk about? What can we open up about?
You know, for me personally, it's my relationship with Whit and his addiction to porn. And I'm going to call it addiction because it is the same as Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the same as drugs. It has the same effect in your mind, in your body that drugs have. And it's killing you just as sure as drugs do.
So when you say that, is this something you're battling today?
No, not Whit, not personally.
I was just curious because you called it an addiction. So I wondered, what does that look like today?
But if you're an alcoholic and you say, okay, my name's Heather and I'm an alcoholic, you are continually walking out that journey of freedom from alcohol for the rest of your life. I mean, if
so the temptation is still there, it's just not being acted on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. And Whit has been honest about his struggle with pornography. And it's so crazy. He told me about his addiction to porn before we got married. And my understanding of porn was the handful of magazines I'd seen. And to me, it didn't affect me. I was just like, oh, this is weird. And I put it away. It wasn't something that I was continually looking for and seeking. But for him, it was like once he got hooked, once he was exposed, it was burning desire to look for it. Every time that he went to Barnes and Noble, he was seeking out ways to sneak it off to a quiet aisle or wherever he was going to look at it. So when he told me, I thought, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. But as we got into our marriage and he's staying up late at night and I'm going to bed, the ramifications of his addiction to porn in those early years, we're still recovering.
Sure.
Still.
Well, what I think is crazy about that, Heather, is we're in our 40s. Is it okay that I tell people
That's
that?
all right.
It's fine. It's true. So our generation looking at porn, because Brian looked at porn. I mean, in our generation, it was almost a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Maybe not an addiction or what have you, because you had to go seek it out and you had to sneak around and you had to take the plastic off the cover in Barnes and Noble and go down to right now it's hunting our kids down and our husbands. But I would say that is sad and horrific. But what about now?
Yeah.
What does a porn addiction, and you can speak for you and your husband, what does that look like now when it's just right on your phone?
It's constant vigilance. For Whit, it's constant vigilance. One of the things that would lead him to porn was online forums. Like sports fan. So he's gonna look at his teams and read the stats and the recruiting things that they talk about or whatever. And there would be people with their avatar that would have a suggestive picture in their avatar. So
this is crazy. You probably know this. We all know that our phones are listening to us. My sister-in-law's in marketing, and she's telling me about the customer journey that her company takes people on by different things they click on their phone. So you click on this, and then all of a sudden your phone knows, well, if you like that sweater, you probably like these. I honestly kind of like it a little bit because it makes shopping super easy because I'm like, I do like that sweatshirt. Thank you very much. I don't even have to search for it. It's right there. But your phone can tell your gender, can tell your preferences. We were playing a game one night at your house and Whit said something that I thought was fascinating. He's like, what I don't understand is like Instagram, which I don't even think he's on very much, but Instagram, if I open up a search to go look for something, all my pictures are scantily clad women. And I'm like, that's fascinating. So I go to my Instagram and I open it and I was just like, oh my gosh, my phone wants me to have another kid because they were all pregnant women.
Yeah.
But there were none that would have been pornographic in nature on my phone. And he's not going and seeking that out, but his phone knows he's a male. His phone knows whatever it knows.
Yeah.
It's probably heard him preach about his former porn issues, and his phone's putting those pictures in front. So my kid's phone knows that they're a teenager and that they're going through puberty and that they're sexually charged hormonally. And so what's popping up? All those images.
Yeah.
I just think, man, for Whit, thank God he found freedom from that before this day and age that we're in.
Yeah.
But I want to know, my question to you, could you please give me the answer, is how do we save the next generation of kids?
Yeah. I think we have to keep talking about it. I mean, we have to talk about it all the time until people are tired of talking about it because it's not going to stop.
Yeah. You know my personality. So my poor kids, like sometimes my very introverted, quiet child is like, can we please not talk about this? But I try to normalize tough conversations. Just recently we're in the car, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, you know that new song on the radio that's so catchy that I like so much? They're like, yeah. And I was like, guys, this is the Holy Spirit, like trying to help me out, raising you guys. So I Googled to see what those lyrics meant because they're so catchy and they're talking about oral sex. And my middle child's like, oh my gosh, Mom, please don't. And my oldest child, he looked confused. So I said, do you know what that means? Oral sex. The middle child's like, oh my gosh, make her stop. And my older child, who we know both my teenage boys have been exposed to things. And he says very innocently, I guess it means talking about sex. Oral? Sex? Talking about and I was like, oh, that's not exactly what it means. And so he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So the world is exposing him to all these things, but he's a baby. Like he had no idea. So I just told him it would be having sex with your mouth. And he's like, I don't know what that means. Somebody's mouth on somebody's private parts. And he's like, oh my gosh, Mom. And he's like a blowjob. And I was like, that's one example. People don't talk like that to their kids.
They don't.
Sometimes it's embarrassing to me and maybe I shouldn't.
It's exhausting. When do you have time? It's work.
It is work.
It is work. I think a lot of times we're not up for it.
We're not. I wanted cute little babies that cuddled in my arms. And it turns out I had 3 kids that screamed their head off, pooped out of their diaper, and were fussy, and I didn't really like it that much. But I didn't have kids envisioning this.
Yeah.
There are times I would rather just close my eyes tight and pull up the covers and watch a Netflix show.
Yeah.
And not think about or talk about and just go, God, please. You
take care of this.
Take care of these kids, please.
Yeah.
Because it's exhausting and it's hard and it sometimes feels like there's no way to win.
So Whit was always wanting to quit, from day one.
Yeah.
Like the first time he looked at porn, he knew that this is no bueno. I don't want to do this. Yeah. He had talked to his parents about it several times and they tried their best to do what they could, but it's just something that he carried with him for at least probably 10 years. I don't know. No, more than that. But I think when he really got serious about it, he had to let other people know.
Sure.
And treat it like an addiction, not just a problem that pops up every once in a while or whatever, but he had to really treat it like an addiction. He let people into his life, let him know, because I had known I'm not enough because he's going to find ways around whatever safeguards or conversations we're having and questions that I'm asking or whatever's happening, he was going to find a way around it. There would be a moment of temptation that honestly is not my responsibility to rescue him out of. I think that that's one thing that we hear in the church a lot is, well, you need to be a better wife.
Oh, wow.
Because your husband would not have this.
That's a lot to carry.
And it's not my responsibility. Yeah. There are problems in marriages there's so much that we could talk about in conversations around sex, whether there's porn involved or not.
For sure.
But the burden being put on the wife of you're responsible for delivering your husband from this temptation is false.
Yeah.
And it makes me angry that there are people that are putting that on the wife while the husband can just diddle around however he wants. Yeah, and I use that word on purpose.
Okay. I was like, that's a great word.
But I think it came down to Whit having to let people into his life and sharing that struggle.
I know what my opinion is, but would you agree that in your experience, pornography is or was a modern day version of idolatry?
Absolutely.
I just think when we are Christians. And we do know to uproot idolatry, you have to shift your focus where Jesus is more beautiful than the idol you've been serving.
Sure.
And I think progression to find your way out of any entanglement and any sin is equal parts you doing some hard work and taking some hard steps. Like one of the things I say in my small groups all the time is your life doesn't have to be public, but it cannot be secret.
Yeah.
Who knows your story and your struggle and your secrets? For just 1 second, if I talk on behalf of my kids probably don't want one of their parents to be the one that helps them through some of this.
Sure.
And that's okay, but they do need an adult. They do need a peer. They do need people. They can't keep it private.
Yeah.
But I think safeguards and passwords and all those things are good and necessary. But until you shift to where Jesus is more beautiful than the sin,
you can't, because you can't just take it away. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to take this away and put it over here. You have to replace it with something else.
Right.
I think that this is when you're talking about people knowing and everything, that the community is key, because for my kids, they need other adults in their life. Yeah. it can't just be their friends because their friends are dummies.
Well, their friends have not fully developed their brains.
And their friends are dealing with the same thing,
Right.
which it's good to know, okay, you guys are dealing with the same thing or whatever. But I think that there's a freedom in being able for kids to be able to talk to other adults. Other adults can know their secret. For Whit, it was sharing it with people a little bit older than him and having that accountability. And then it was safeguards in that time on the computer and eliminating temptation and things like that. But recognizing the idolatry of it, it's your pride, it's your...
I do not know how to provide a friend with hope in a situation like this without Jesus. I don't know how to do it. Some people can break through an addiction with just sheer willpower. My husband, Brian is like that. I mean, like, if Brian wanted to quit eating, I don't know, red meat. Come hell or high water, that man would never eat red meat again.
Yeah.
I would probably eat it by end of day. There are some people hardwired that way, but behavior modification isn't freedom. It can make some changes, but you've got to replace it with something more powerful than the addiction.
I think for the most part, the root is some sort of wound. You're soothing something. Sometimes porn can be a soothing for stress. It can be an escape.
I would say, although I agree, what about the kid that just clicked on the cereal ad and they weren't trying to heal and they just wanted their mom to buy them cereal.
Right.
So I do agree. And then on the flip side, I think sometimes it's an addictive pattern that they weren't using to help them in any way. And that is really sad.
I think that's where it comes into our pleasure centers in our brain. Curiosity. Porn industry is targeting kids before that understanding, or you don't even have understanding of that.
That's the hard part. I think our generation, it's probably salve on a wound. It's probably, pleasure hormones coming to life. And, I wonder if I'm enough. Do I measure up? I have an insecurity here. I do eventually want to have sex and I won't know what I'm doing. I do, but I don't know if I think that for the 9-year-old that has an iPhone and clicks on an ad.
No, that's just straight up pit that they've fallen into.
Yeah. Heather, what do we do now?
We have to keep shining light on it for Whit to be free, for our marriage to recover. We had to shine light. We had to keep talking about it. We had to bring other people into the conversation.
I also think we should offer this. If people want to continue the conversation, because we just barely scratched the surface.
Goodness.
We talked primarily about men or teenage boys or what have you, but this is an issue for women.
Yeah.
And we didn't even scratch the surface on that. We could probably talk about this for days and not exhaust all the information. So I'd love to hear what the viewers want to talk about. Maybe hit us up with questions or comments or what are you think? We don't have all the answers.
No, your perspective. What have you experienced?
Yeah. We're just willing to bring it into the light and start the conversation. There's kind of a proverbial line that society says, and don't cross the line. And we're just going to push that line back a bit and say, let's talk about the things we're not supposed to talk about so that we can find freedom and walk in freedom.
So what's something you're doing this week to bring yourself joy?
I'm going to go I haven't even told Brian this yet. I'm going to go Friday to lunch at Stonehorse and have that same niçoise salad again, because first of all, I love it. And second of all, the name of it is French and you can't travel anywhere right now because all the stinking restrictions in life. So I'm going to go on a mini trip in my mind. What are you going to do?
I'm going to leave here and go to an estate sale. Yes, and see what kind of treasures they have. I rarely buy anything at an estate sale. I got to find something really good. Yeah. But I do like to go to estate sales just to see what's here. Is there anything amazing?
I'm slightly offended that when I said what I was going to do, you looked at me like it was dumb. And so I just want you to know I'm also looking back at you like your choice is dumb too. If you have enjoyed our podcast today, you should subscribe to Life in Motion. You can find us anywhere you download podcasts. You can also get more information at churchontheMove.com/inmotion. We hope you do something this week that brings you and the people around you joy. See you next time.